Number 10. What even is a multiverse? I think a good place to start with this list is with something I can actually explain. When the universe first came into being during the Big Bang, it was followed by a massive infinite expansion, which we can prove as we can see it happening. When we look out into the universe, what we see is the past as the light makes its way to us. So, if we look out, say, 5 light years into space, what we see will be 5 years in the past over there. Astronomers with our modern technology are able to see out to a distance of about 42 billion light years into the universe, seeing events in places of space as they happened 42 billion years in the past. But we have no reason to believe the universe doesn't go further and infinitely. As the expansion continues infinitely with no stop, then things are bound to repeat themselves. Events will occur in the exact same form or fashion as they have before, like the formation of the Earth in a galaxy that is basically the same as ours. Life would occur in the same way, and decisions by those living beings would occur in the same way, leading to another you, or another me, or another us. But they would also occur in different ways as well. Every decision you make could be made a different way, and those infinitely repeated versions of you that exist would make those same or different decisions, leading to an infinite number of universes with planets just like this one with infinite different variations of history. This makes a multiverse. Theoretically, if someone is to travel backwards in time, they would now be existing in one of these alternate versions of history, one of these infinite alternate worlds. Number 9. The Mandela Effect. The Mandela Effect, sometimes referred to as the Mandela Phenomenon, is an instance of false collective memory, a situation in which a large mass of people believes that an event occurred when it did not. It was named for a collected belief from a small group of people that Nelson Mandela had passed away in the 1980s in a South African prison when he actually passed away in 2013. Some people even remembered seeing news coverage of his death as well as a speech by his widow. But the thing is, that was nowhere near the only instance of the Mandela Effect. One of the most well-known examples of the Mandela Effect is the collective memory of a movie called Shazam that starred the actor/comedian Sinbad in the 1990s, when actually no movie exists at all. While this could be false memories or your brain filling in gaps, another big theory for why this happens originates from quantum physics and relates to the idea that rather than one timeline of events, alternate realities or universes may be taking place and mixing with our timeline. This theory is suggesting that the groups of people having the same memories is because the timeline has been altered as we shift between these different realities. While we can't prove this theory right, we can't prove it wrong either, and so it has remained a popular answer for an interesting phenomenon. Number 8. Doppelgangers of the mind. Ooh. Autoscopic phenomena. It comes from autoscopy. In Greek, autos means self and scopio means looking at. The simplest form of an autoscopic phenomenon involves feeling the presence of someone next to you without actually seeing a double or anyone there. But the doppelganger effect takes the phenomenon a step further, so that a person may hallucinate that they are actually seeing and interacting with another version of themselves. But probably the most widely experienced and best known form of autoscopic phenomena is the out-of-body experience, seeing yourself from the outside perspective. They are all technically hallucinations caused by malfunctions in brain mechanisms that root us in the here and now, but just like with the Mandela Effect, some people believe these hallucinations can also be explained with both time travel and or the multiverse. For example, you wake up out of bed but you can still see yourself laying in bed fast asleep. Some believe this is caused by your brain blurring the lines between alternate universes, or that perhaps you traveled forward in time and are now looking back at an alternate timeline of you that is still laying in bed. Now that may sound wacky, but what about when there are actually two people in the world who look basically the same?
Number 7. The Philadelphia Survivor. The Philadelphia experiment is perhaps one of the most famous urban legends / conspiracy theories / actual historical event. For context, the Philadelphia experiment is an alleged military experiment that was carried out by the US Navy. In 1943, the USS Eldridge allegedly was made invisible and teleported from Pennsylvania to Virginia, either through time or parallel universe. What's the difference really? The story actually originated in 1955 when ex-merchant marine Carl M. Allen claimed to witness the event. He sent a book full of handwritten annotations to prove it, though it might be a hoax. Who knows? Did this actually happen? Who knows? But the movie definitely did, and it did nothing to help the conspiracy theories circling the world. But a man named Alfred Bielek found the film incredibly life-changing, as while watching it, he realized who he actually was, the lone survivor of the experiment. After seeing the 1988 film, Bielek's memories came flooding back, and he was actually Ed Cameron, and he had been born in 1916. So if this was real, it ticks all the boxes. Parallel universes, time travel, aliens, Philadelphia, science. Number 6, The Missing Hotel. This one gives me like Howl's Moving Castle vibes. Could be because I watched it recently for like the 12th time, so I don't know. But a building that's there 1 minute and then gone the next? I don't know. A couple traveling Europe had a unique experience, one they will never forget despite history seeming to. This story was featured on a TV series called Strange But True. Two couples headed off to Spain in the 1970s to live their best lives, but time travel wasn't on the itinerary. They were on their way from England, passing through France, when they decided to stop and search for accommodations. Everywhere in Montelimar was packed save one place that was simply labeled hotel. They got a room that was tremendously old-fashioned with no glass in the windows and no phone. But it was the breakfast the next morning that shocked them. The other guests were dressed in like outdated clothing, and their breakfast only came out to 19 francs, which was way lower than what they thought. Hey, that's a win. They took tons of pictures of the vintage hotel and planned on returning next time they were in Europe. But the hotel disappeared. When they looked for the hotel again, it was no longer there, and no locals knew what the heck they were talking about. Even eerier, their photographs did not develop, like it had all been a glitch. Number 5, the bridge opening. Next up, we have this picture. See if you can spot the one who is out of place. Found him? In case you missed it, we are talking about the gent dressed in the all too familiar type of hipster style. He sticks out like a sore thumb with his thick black glasses, graphic t-shirt, and what looks to be some kind of hooded cardigan. This photo blew up across time travel enthusiast forums, he's the ultimate hipster. The location of the photo was at the reopening of the Southport Bridge in Goldbridge, British Columbia in 1941. He also looks to be the youngest guy in the photo. Strange considering he would have been enlisted in the Canadian Army at that point. Correct me if I'm wrong. So why is such a young circa 2010 sporting gent standing at the Southport Bridge? Could it be he was sent back to document the event and was accidentally documented himself? Number 4, Andrew Carlson. This next one is for all my Game Stoppers out there who love that Robin Hood story. I did too. I really did. It sounds like Andrew Carlson pulled a Biff from Back to the Future though. Police arrested the 44-year-old in 2003 when he was somehow able to turn $800 into $350 million over 2 weeks. That's the damn dream, man. Authorities believe that he must have had insider help, which according to Andrew wasn't exactly untrue. Andrew told the court that he was actually a time traveler from the year 2256, and that is how he knew. Obviously, who the heck would believe that ridiculous excuse? But wait, it gets weirder. Andrew disappeared without a trace. A month later, a mysterious benefactor paid $1 million buyout to get him out. On April 2nd, Andrew was supposed to meet with his lawyer, but he had entirely disappeared without a trace. No evidence of his existence could be found before the year 2002. Andrew, can you come back and just tell me how you did that? That'd be great, you know? Anyways, number 3, put your phone away. When I go to my next concert, there is one thing I really hope I don't see. People watching the whole thing through their phones while they're at a live concert. It just bothers me so much. Maybe do it once to commemorate it, but not the entire time, dude, you know? Someone should have said that to this time traveler in the background of Mike Tyson's 1994 match with Peter McNeely. Check this out. Yup, right in the background is a smartphone. Obviously, right? I still remember my mom having a tiny screen dial phone well into 2001. There was no way what looks to be a Galaxy phone would be around back then. Debunk this photo if you want, but if that is indeed a time traveler who was sent back, dude, time and place. Number 2, the Nazca astronaut. Out of all the items on this list, this is the largest example of time travel in history by sheer size. The Nazca lines are located 250 miles south of Lima, Peru, and feature over 70 massive depictions of animals that can only be seen from the sky. But the one we are talking about is definitely either a sign for aliens or time travel. Among the 70 images, there's a strange humanoid figure that looks remarkably similar to an astronaut. Some of the designs from the geoglyphs measure around 30 miles, and experts have no idea how or why these drawings were created with such precision. The astronaut is the strangest of them all. It kind of looks like not only an astronaut, but it looks like it's waving, you know? Weird. Was this an homage to a strange spaceman who came traveling and visited the people of Peru? I personally wouldn't be surprised. And last but not least, Edgar Allan Poe. This last and final one, I have to thank Olivia for helping me dive down this rabbit hole because it really is convincing. I'm fully on board. So is she. So here we go. Edgar Allan Poe has to have been a time traveler, or maybe he still is. Either way, he must have had some sixth sense. Okay, so first off, he predicted the future. 46 years after Edgar published his first novel called The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket in 1838, something weird happened. At one point in the book, their ship, Grampus, became stranded without food or water after a mutiny and must resort to desperate measures. The crew draws straws to see who would be sacrificed for sustenance. A boy named Richard Parker lost the deal. 46 years later, in 1884, the exact thing happens with the exception that the boat was a sinking yacht. 4 men were set adrift and forced to do the same thing, and guess the name of the boy who died! Richard Parker. Example 1. Example 2, 1840, Poe penned the story called The Businessman Who Endures a Violent Life After a Head Injury. He was hit in the head as a young kid, causing an injury to his frontal lobe, which Poe seemed to entirely understand in intricate detail. But the first time behavioral changes caused by this kind of injury were able to be studied didn't come until 1848. An actual neurologist, Eric Altshuler, wrote, and I quote, "There's dozens of symptoms and he knows every single one. There's everything in that story, we've hardly learned anything more. It's so exact that it's just weird, and it's like he had a time machine." Unquote. Point 3. Who is the figure who visits Poe's grave every year and puts a rose on it? Perhaps Poe is coming back to honor a past life. After all, why is a raven like a writing desk? Because Poe wrote on both.
Starting off this countdown, we have the photographic evidence. A couple of years ago, a man named Edward came forward claiming that he was a time traveler from the year 5000. He even came with evidence. Now, he used a fake name and had his identity hidden so people weren't gonna come after him. So according to Edward, he claims he was part of a top secret experiment that took place in 2004. During the test, he was successfully transported in time. He was taken to LA 5,000 years in the future, and it's not looking too good. He said, and I quote, "I was standing on a huge wooden platform, and after I realized it was the same city, Los Angeles, but underwater." This man's claims were backed up with evidence. He took a photo of LA underwater. I don't even know what to think. Either he's good at Photoshop or he's actually a time traveler. I just thought that the water would be way more polluted than that. Like, that's far too clear, you know? It's a little sketchy. In our 9th spot, we have Vladimir Putin. It turns out that the president of Russia is a time traveler. Take a look at these photos. First, we got a Russian soldier from 1920, and he looks identical to Putin. Then we have another Russian soldier from 1941, and he also looks like a young Putin, who is pictured on the far right. Too eerie. Either he's immortal or he's a time traveler. Moving on, at number 8, we have the TikTok time traveler. Now, I talked about this case briefly before, and I'm throwing it on today's list because it's the most recent case of time travel. Basically, a guy named Javier claims that he is a time traveler who is now stuck in the year 2027. The scariest part is that the entire human race is wiped out by then. On his TikTok page, he posts videos of him wandering the streets of Spain alone. He has gone to stadiums, airports, police stations, hospitals, restaurants, and malls. No one is there except himself, which is crazy because normally those places would be packed with people, but they aren't. So here's the thing. Either he's a time traveler and was sent to the future to warn us, or he's somehow faking it. But a number of people have analyzed his videos. Some people believe he edits everyone out of the video. Sure, it's possible to edit objects and people out of videos, but it's harder to do with multiple people in the shot, in which there would be, and it's harder if the people are moving around, which they would be. Another theory is that these videos were pre-filmed, that they were filmed during the pandemic when they were under lockdown and had a curfew. But in order to prove that that's not the case, he gets his followers to tell him where he should go next. He then will go to that specific place and prove no one is there. The freakiest part is he has gone to hospitals. If this was filmed during the pandemic, the hospitals would be filled with people. But when he walks around, no one, and I mean no one, is there. Maybe this is real and we should take him seriously. Who knows, but believe what you want to believe. In our 7th spot, we have Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin went back in time to become the 13th president of the United States, Millard Fillmore. I guess he was like, hey, if Donald Trump can do it, so can I. Let me just borrow this time machine real quick and go back in time and run for presidency. Or something like that. Like, come on, the two look so eerily similar in every photo. We need to get Ancestry DNA to do some research. Maybe they're related somewhere along the line. Or Alec Baldwin learned how to time travel. Coming in at number 6, we have Queen Latifah. Take a look at African-American novelist Zora Neale Hurston. A lot of people have noticed that she looks like Queen Latifah's twin. Seriously, the resemblance is crazy, especially since they both like wearing wide-brimmed hats. Coincidence? I think not. Hurston is said to be one of the most important black writers in all of American literature. She wrote a number of powerful pieces, including her most famous work, Their Eyes Were Watching God. A lot of people are now saying that Latifah should play Hurston in a movie about her life. I mean, it seems fitting. Or maybe Queen Latifah is a time traveler and then she would just end up playing herself in that movie, technically. It's crazy, they look so much alike. In our 5th spot today we have Nicolas Cage. There's a man from the 19th century that looks pretty similar to this Academy Award winning actor and America's national treasure. The photo was taken in 1870 and features a Tennessee man dressed in a snazzy outfit. The photo was found in the back of an album of death portraits. But did the man really die? Or did he just leave that time period and come back to this time period? Think about it. What's even crazier though is that this photo is currently being listed on eBay for $1 million. I don't know who would buy that, but it could be real photographic evidence that Nick Cage is a time traveler. Moving on to number 4, we have Justin Timberlake. American singer-songwriter Justin Timberlake is another celebrity believed to be a time traveler. Take a look at this photo of a man from the past. That is his doppelganger. Sadly, we don't know much about this mystery man. One post said that he was a criminal from back in the day, whereas another post said that he was a minor. I'm not sure. Maybe he was a criminal and a minor. A minor that, you know, committed crimes. Who knows? Why would Justin go back in time to be a minor or to commit crimes? Doesn't really make sense. Maybe he was just trying to bring sexy back. See what I did there? I just can't stop this feeling that he's a time traveler. It's almost like he goes around and comes around. Sorry, I'll stop with the puns, but seriously, this one is pretty freaky. Coming in at number 3, we have Jack Black. This one is honestly the funniest one on this list. You know, Jack Black is talented when he has a successful acting career currently, and also way back in the day in Italy. So this old Italian poster literally looks like it has Jack Black on the cover. Like, excuse me, they have the same facial expression and everything. Does that mean that Jack Black went back in time so he could be a famous actor in Italy, or what? Maybe this was his way to do research for one of the films he was in, you know, to like really get into character. Who knows at this point? Jack Black is a time traveler, okay? Moving on to number 2, we have Anne Hathaway. Okay, this is another really freaking trippy one. So people have pointed out that actress Anne Hathaway's husband looks a lot like William Shakespeare. Okay, I see the resemblance, they're correct, but guess what? William Shakespeare's wife's name was literally Anne Hathaway. Like, mind blow. Coincidence? I think not. Time travelers confirmed. I mean, she could have at least used a different name to make it less suspicious. Like, come on now. I'm just kidding. But either they both reincarnated and found each other again, or they're time travelers. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Donald Trump. Okay, buckle your seatbelts. I'm not even kidding when I say that Donald Trump might be a time traveler. Just wait until you see this evidence. Basically, someone discovered 2 books on the Office of Congress Library website. The books are called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey and 1900, or The Last President. Both were written in the 1890s by Ingersoll Lockwood. Now, hold on one second. What's Donald Trump's son's name? Baron Trump, okay? But that's not the only spooky coincidence. The book Baron Trump is about a young boy who finds a secret portal and time travels. At one point in the book, he is guided by a man named Don, aka Donald, aka Donald Trump. And then in the book, The Last President, it's about an unlikely presidential candidate that won the election. Sound familiar? Even freakier, the book talks about the 5th Avenue Hotel. The address of the hotel in the book is the exact same address where Trump's tower currently stands. But wait, there's more. In this book, there's a character named Laugh Pence, who is the Secretary of Agriculture. Hello? The ex-vice president's name was Mike Pence. Come on guys, there's just too many similarities between the books and Donald Trump's life. So people believe that this book was actually written about Trump and his family, all of whom are time travelers. Starting off this countdown, we have the Adidas shoes. Now, this is a famous case of supposed time travel. A couple of years ago, an ancient mummy was unearthed in Mongolia. Nothing was too off about the mummy, besides the fact that she wore shoes that looked like Adidas trainers. The shoes had red and black stripes on it. I personally don't see the resemblance with the shoes, but others are convinced that this body belongs to a time traveler. Upon analyzing the body further, they found that it belonged to a woman who died from a blow to the head. It's theorized that this woman may have indeed have been a time traveler and was killed after her identity was leaked. What else could explain the fact that this woman was found wearing Adidas? Just a little tip, if you're going time traveling, don't wear Nike or Adidas. Moving on to number 9, we have The Fight. A video of Mike Tyson's fight from 1995 went viral online for containing supposed proof of a time traveler. In the background of the video, you can see a man who appears to be recording or taking photos of the fight on an iPhone or another modern camera phone. The fight was in 1995 and camera phones were not sold until the 2000s. As a result, many people are convinced that the man in the audience is a time traveler, who I guess is a fan of Mike Tyson. What also tripped people out is the fact that the main cameras used in the 90s were the ones with the lenses in the middle. This camera is clearly lacking that. However, others believe that the man is not a time traveler and in fact was just taking a photo on a camera known as the Casio QV10A. Even though it's been potentially debunked, there are people out there that don't believe it for a second. In our 8th spot, we have the Mohawk Man. It's like, where's Waldo with these photos? Except you're looking for the person that doesn't belong. So this next image is apparently from 1905 and shows workers and a banana boat delivering goods. However, near the boat there appears to be someone standing there in a white t-shirt rocking a Mohawk style haircut, which is a very unusual haircut for that time period. The men in the photo are wearing suits and top hats and have fancy mustaches and look well dressed, whereas he's there in a plain t-shirt. Due to the fact that he looks out of place, people have pegged him as a time traveler. He kind of reminds me of Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver though.
Number 7. Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom is an English actor. He made his breakthrough in the Lord of the Rings film series, The Fellowship of the Ring. He's best known for his roles in Carnival Row and the Pirates of the Caribbean films. He has a very strong resemblance to Nicolae Grigorescu, who was an influential 19th century Romanian painter. Nicolae was one of the founders of modern Romanian painting. He was born in 1838 and passed away in 1907. Between 1856 and 1857, he painted the Church of the Zamfira Monastery, Prahova County, and in 1861 the Church of the Agapia Monastery. Seems like in this life, Orlando wanted to be more in front of the camera and be the art instead of creating it like he did in the 1800s, but you can't deny that these two look extremely similar. Number 6. Jennifer Lawrence. Jennifer Lawrence is an actress who was the world's highest paid actress in 2015 and 2016. She appeared in Time's 100 most influential people in the world list in 2013 and on the Forbes Celebrity 100 list from 2013 to 2016. She has many accolades including an Oscar, 3 Golden Globe Awards, 6 People's Choice Awards, and 7 MTV Movie Awards. She's best known for her roles in Silver Linings Playbook, Don't Look Up, and the Hunger Games films. Now, Jennifer looks very similar to famous Egyptian actress Zubaida Tharwar. Zubaida was an Egyptian film, stage, and television actress who was known for the most beautiful eyes in classic Egyptian cinema. She was known for movies such as The Guilty, The Other Man, and There Is a Man in Our House. With both of them being famous actresses, I can totally see them being the same person. Number 5. Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is an American comedian, television host, actor, writer, and singer. He's best known for his work in television, and his breakthrough came during his tenure as a cast member on the NBC sketch comedy series Saturday Night Live from 1998 to 2004. 2004. He then became the host of the late night talk show Late Night with Jimmy Fallon from 2009 to 2014, and became the anchor of The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon following his departure from late night. In addition to his television work, he has released 2 comedy albums and 7 books, mainly aimed at children. Now, Jimmy looks exactly like Mahir Chiran. If I were to put a mustache on Jimmy, they would be the exact same. Mahir was a Turkish Marxist-Leninist revolutionary who was born in 1946 and was executed in 1972. Jimmy Fallon was born in 1974, with a 2-year difference between the two. Think about it. Could it be a coincidence? Maybe, but it could also be reincarnation. Couldn't it? I think so. Number 4. Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage is an American film, television, and stage actor. He received international recognition for being on the HBO television series Game of Thrones. Due to this, he won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series, a record of 4 times. He also received a Golden Globe Award in 2011 and a Screen Actors Guild Award in 2020 for the role. Now, Peter has a common form of dwarfism known as achondroplasia, as he stands 4 feet and 5 inches tall, and due to this he has used his celebrity status to raise social awareness. Now it seems like Peter looks exactly like this man from this painting, the portrait of Sebastian de Mora. The painting is by Diego Velázquez of Sebastian de Mora, a court dwarf and jester at the court of Philip IV of Spain. It was painted around 1644 and is now in the Prado in Madrid. They look exactly the same, but the fact that they both have dwarfism is crazy to me. They are truly the same person. Number 3. Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien is an American television host, comedian, writer, and producer. He's best known for having hosted late night talk shows for almost 28 years, beginning with The Late Night Show with Conan O'Brien and The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien on the NBC television network and Conan on the cable channel TBS. Now before his hosting career, he was a writer for the NBC sketch comedy series Saturday Night Live from 1988 to 1991 and the Fox animated sitcom The Simpsons from 1991 to 1993. He has also been the host of the podcast series Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend since 2018 and is expected to launch a new show on HBO Max. He looks exactly like Marshall H. Twitchell in this photo. Marshall was born in 1840 and passed away in 1905. He was a teacher, officer in the Union Army, and a businessman. Originally from Vermont, he became a prominent political figure in Louisiana's post-war Reconstruction, including 2 terms as a Republican member of the Louisiana State Senate. After the war, he returned north, served as a diplomat in Canada, and wrote a memoir. I truly think this was Conan in a past life. Number 2. Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg is an American businessman and internet entrepreneur. He's known for co-founding the social media website Facebook and its parent company Meta Platforms, which he is the chairman, chief executive officer, and controlling shareholder. In 2007, at age 23, he became the world's youngest self-made billionaire. He has used his funds to organize multiple charities, including the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Since 2008, Time magazine has named Mark among the 100 most influential people in the world as a part of its Person of the Year award. In the Forbes 400 list of wealthiest Americans in 2022, he was ranked 11th with a wealth of $57.7 billion. As of February 2023, his net worth was $68.6 billion, according to the Forbes Real-Time Billionaires, making him the 16th richest person in the world. Now, with all of this money, is it possible that he could time travel? Yes, 100%. And he looks exactly like Philip IV, also called the Planet King. He was the king of Spain from 1621 to his death in 1640, and he is remembered for his patronage of the arts. Why not go from being a king of a country to a king of the internet and metaverse? This seems like something Mark would do. And coming in at number 1 is Adam Schulman and Anne Hathaway. Adam Schulman is an actor and producer known for Seesaw Monster, The Shower, and Song 1. He married his wife Anne Hathaway in 2012. Now Anne is an American actress and is the recipient of various accolades, including an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and a Primetime Emmy Award. She was among the world's highest paid actresses in 2015 and is best known for her roles in The Devil Wears Prada, Les Miserables, and The Princess Diaries. Now, does the name Anne Hathaway sound familiar? Everyone's heard of William Shakespeare. What you probably don't know about the famous English playwright is that he had a wife named Anne Hathaway. But that's not the scary part. Adam looks exactly like William Shakespeare. Perhaps him and his wife came back for some unfinished business and to provide the world with more art. Everyone on the internet believes this, as people say they came back for each other, eternal lovers, and history hath a way of repeating itself. Another wrote, immortals must hate all of us for exposing them online, lol, and one fan claimed Shakespeare made a deal with his wife, I get to be famous in this life and you get to be famous in the next. I truly believe this, the resemblance is uncanny.
Starting off this countdown, we have Andy and Daniel. Take a look at the people here and tell me that that is not Andy Samberg and Daniel Radcliffe. Don't see a resemblance? Well, take a look at them side by side. Bam! Someone discovered this photo. I'm assuming in like an old yearbook. I could be wrong, but then they uploaded it online. From there, thousands of people were liking and commenting on it, agreeing that they look an awful lot like those two actors. I mean, they're posing the exact same in everything. It's way too freaky. Like, did Harry Potter use a time turner to go back in time or what? Either that or those are the men's real fathers. I just can't stop staring at the photo, like it's too eerie. Coming in at number 9, we have Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon is a well-known comedian and talk show host. And now, apparently time traveler. Take a look at this photo. The man on the left is Marxist revolutionary leader Mahir Khayyam. Mahir passed away in 1972. When was Jimmy born? September 1974. Just 2 years later. So either reincarnation is real or he's a time traveler. Maybe Jimmy felt like he needed to go back in time and try and make a difference in society. Or that's just his long lost family member. Coming in at number 8, we have Leonardo da Vinci. Famous painter Leonardo da Vinci is also believed to be a time traveler. In fact, a lot of people have said that he was ahead of his time. Maybe quite literally. Maybe he came from the future, you know what I'm saying? One theory is that he went back in time to steal other people's accomplishments or to help advance the world. This dude was a genius. He knew more things than anyone else did in that time period. For example, Da Vinci drew pictures of a helicopter in 1493, okay? That's hundreds of years before an actual helicopter was created. But not only that, he had the idea for an armored fighting vehicle, aka tanks. And he also invented the idea of a submarine. He talked about ships that could travel underwater, and even sketched designs of them. So Da Vinci somehow came up with all these modern day inventions and more. How? Because he's a time traveler. Boom, mic drop.
Number 7, lookalikes. So, do you remember in my first point how I was explaining that over the course of the limitless expansion of space, things are bound to repeat themselves? Well, we kind of have a pretty good example of that on Earth. Over time and through history, and even sometimes at the same time, there will be people on Earth that look shockingly similar to one another. We have all seen the photos of celebrities being compared to old paintings of people from the past, or two people meeting on an airplane that look practically identical despite not being related at all. The chances of even one of us being created exactly how we are so small that every person alive is pretty much a miracle. That's a positive. So to find someone else who has been created in such a shockingly similar way to you is pretty insane. For some, this just shows that building blocks can repeat themselves within the human species at different points throughout time, and if we expand that out to our universe, it just makes sense that that same kind of thing happens with universes. Doppelganger universes making a multiverse. Number 6. Flying. A lot of parallel universe and time travel stories seem to do with flying, and I've got one such story for you here. And if you stick around for point number 1, there's another interesting event that I think you'd find pretty cool. So, back in 1935, when he was still a wing commander, Air Marshal Sir Victor Goddard was instructed to inspect an inactive airbase located in Drem, near Edinburgh, in Scotland. While flying over it, Sir Goddard found the airbase to be in a poor state, with cattle grazing on the grass that had overgrown. It was in complete rack shambles. Later on, while flying, he got into a bit of harsh weather, and to avoid an accident, Goddard decided to fly back to the airbase till the weather cleared out a bit. Now, as he approached the airbase, the rain oddly and very abruptly gave way to bright sunshine, but the real shock came when he also noticed that the airbase was now in mint condition and in use. He saw mechanics wearing blue overalls working on the yellow planes parked on the runway, and Sir Goddard failed to recognize any one of these planes in the base as any that were in use at this time. Instant renovation of the place couldn't have been possible, and the personnel weren't even wearing the khaki-colored uniforms that were the norm at that time. Also, the Air Force painted all their planes in silver, not yellow. The real kicker came 4 years later though. Europe was war-torn and he happened to visit Drem again, but this time he saw everything he saw 4 years ago in 1935. Same people in the same blue overalls servicing the same yellow planes, and he even found the plane that he couldn't recognize before, a Miles Magister. And you can figure out how that means multiverses or time travel. Number 5. John Teeter, a man from 2036. In November 2000, a man named John Teeter, or Titer, or however you want to pronounce it, started answering questions on the internet about time travel. The man claimed that he is from 2036 and said that their world was torn apart because of the war between the US and Russia. Only a few people survived, and now he had come back into the past to retrieve some items that would help them rebuild society. He specifically asked for a computer, the IBM 5100, which was never released to the public and was only known to exist by only a few people who actually designed it. He was all over the internet for about 4 months, and then he disappeared. The thing that we gotta remember is that this was a man on the internet. I can honestly say that it is very easy to lie about something like this and fabricate any kind of story you want. His reasoning for the collapse of the world is easy to guess at. Russia and the US have been opposing each other for years. The IBM 5100 thing is a little bit weirder, but how do we even know only a few people designed it without someone being told that? You know what I mean? But it starts to make us wonder if John actually is from the year 2036. Problem is, we would have to wait until 2036 to know that. But that's only 13 years from now. And John was a grown man, so his younger self would have to be alive now. But all we have is a first and last name, and if you've ever looked yourself up on the internet, you know there are tons of people who share your same name. So I guess we will just not know until 2036. But then again, if John came back to change things and he was successful, then we won't ever know because we are now existing in an alternate timeline, an alternate reality than the one John came from. Confusing. Number 4, the streets of Liverpool. There are way too many strange stories about the streets of Liverpool that seem almost unexplainable. Like visiting those streets is stepping into an alternate universe or an alternate time. But we're going to talk about one specific example. In 2011, a woman went to a mother care store to buy a gift for her sister. While checking out, her credit card was turned down and she went back home and complained to her mother. Then they both returned to the place where the store was, but there was no store. It was actually a bank. Now, either this woman is full of it and just didn't want to get her sister a gift, so she came up with some crazy story to explain that away, or, stick with me here, or she stepped into a multiversal vortex and traveled to an alternate time or universe where the store did exist, only to leave it back to our universe, which is where she told her mom and returned to the same location in our universe or timeline, but it was a bank. Or she just forgot where the store was, or she's just lying. I'm gonna let you guys decide, you figure it out. Number 3, deja vu. Deja vu is just one of those things that we struggle to describe. Sometimes an explanation of instances of real deja vu comes in the form of short mental time trips to the future. Now you could just say it is an emotional thing, some feeling of I have already experienced this, a close feeling of familiarity for a scene that's just happening. This could be caused by experiencing a similar event that has already happened in your past. You're immediately and maybe subconsciously entering pieces of knowledge about what will happen in the course of the next few seconds, minutes, or maybe even hours based on those things you experienced before, even if they weren't particularly important or memorable. But what about when those details you fill in are impossible to derive from your present knowledge because you haven't experienced them before? So you just know the layout of a city, although you have never been there in your entire life. You know what the person near you will say or do in the next minutes, verbatim sentences for example, which they have not said before. If you ask a neurologist about this, or any human perceptual, mental, or emotional phenomenon, then they will always have an explanation, and it's almost always to do with biochemistry in the human brain. But that answer is boring, and I'm going to go out on a whim here with the other people on Reddit and say that it's you mentally or subconsciously traveling to the future or to another universe to pick up information and relay it back to your brain. Boom! Number 2. What happens when you die? There are many theories about what happens when you finally bite the bullet, when we hit the hay for good, when we pass away. One theory has to do with the multiverse, and if it deals with the multiverse, then it kind of deals with time. The parallel universe theory claims that when we die, we will be living in the same universe as we were before, just in a different portion of space and time. But if we are now in a different portion of space and time than when we died, we had to have traveled time and space to a point point where we didn't make the decisions or didn't experience the exact set of events that led to our demise. Now this is probably the most far-fetched moment from today because it deals with something we 100% cannot prove. But given the idea of so many different religions and beliefs believing in things like a world after our lives, like heaven where everything goes right, or reincarnation after death where we start again without a memory of our previous lives, it feels as though moving to a different portion of space and time, or creating a new personal timeline when ours is destroyed, would somewhat explain those things in some ways. I don't know. The kicker is, we won't ever know for sure, so give me your theories down below. And finally, in at number 1, the plane experiment. Now, we're gonna end today with a real-world experiment of time that could actually prove something here. We are all traveling through time, all of us moving at 1 second per second. Cool. Or are we? According to Einstein's theory of relativity, the faster you travel, the slower you experience time. And this isn't really a theory anymore since some scientists have done some experiments to show that it's actually true. There was an experiment that used 2 clocks set to the exact same time. One clock stayed on Earth while the other flew in an airplane going in the same direction that Earth rotates. After the airplane flew around the world, scientists compared the 2 clocks. The clock on the fast-moving airplane was slightly behind the clock on the ground. So, the clock on the airplane was traveling slightly slower in time than 1 second per second. So, if that's the case, and this is where I go off the rails, if you were on that airplane when you arrived back on Earth, are you now technically in an alternate time, aka a parallel world? Or were you in an alternate timeline while flying in the plane? You were moving at a different speed of time, so you were experiencing a different time, although slightly. Am I completely pulling everything I've said today out of my backside? The answer is, maybe.
Number 10, Sir Victor Goddard. This story really freaks me out. Sir Victor Goddard was a wing commander in 1935 and he was making a trip over to an airbase in Drem, Scotland. Little did he know that this routine trip would change his life forever. As he was flying over the base, he took in the rough condition it was in. The fields were unkept with grass cracking through the tarmac and cattle had begun invading to graze. Then suddenly the weather took a miserable turn and in order to prevent an accident, he decided to make for a landing at the base. But as he got closer and closer to landing, the rain began to let up and the sun broke through the clouds. Suddenly he saw a flurry of mechanics in clean and tidy blue uniforms working diligently on yellow planes. Usually the mechanics at the time formerly wore khaki uniforms, so the blue was a bit of a shock. Additionally, they were working on yellow planes instead of silver. Goddard left shaking his head to remove whatever fever dream he was having, only to revisit the exact moment when he visited the site again 4 years later. He saw the exact same thing, blue uniforms, yellow planes, and had to deal with quite a fierce bit of deja vu. Ever since this story came to light, it's not hard to believe he traveled into the future. Or back in time. Number 9. Greta Thunberg's doppelganger. What doesn't this girl do? First, she takes on the world's global environmental issues, gaining recognition on like every media outlet, and now she may be a time traveler. Social media blew up with the time travel theories when a 19th century photo surfaced that features Greta, or at least someone who looks just like her. It's true, the resemblance is astounding, so is this a case of time traveling, adventures, or just a common gene pool? Well, firstly, the situation of the photo doesn't actually suit Thunberg's environmental initiatives. The photo was taken in 1898, and the 3 children featured in it are sifting for gold, like Greta would ever be seen next to a mine. According to the University of Washington Libraries, the photo was also taken in the Canadian Yukon Territory. Far from Greta. Greta hasn't responded to the fanatics obsessed with the photo, and her silence only feeds the theories. Who knows? Maybe she just has one of those faces, or maybe she was sent back to do more of her research. After all, Greta does seem to prove time and time again that she isn't your average teen. Number 8. A mummy loves some Adidas. Discovering a mummy is a pretty big deal in itself, but discovering one with some pretty sweet kicks? One of the most unique and oldest pairs of shoes were discovered when a Mongolian mummy was unearthed. Her body was found in the Altai Mountains in Mongolia, and on her feet were a peculiar pair of shoes. They looked like trendy Adidas shoes. Now they aren't actually Adidas, but they do feature the signature striped style of the shoe. After the restoration, it was revealed that they were actually a pair of knee-high boots with a striped black and red pattern. They also featured decorated buckles and leather soles. Our ancient fashionista also carried with her a clutch bag, mirror, comb, a knife, and a saddle with the remains of a horse. So lots to do. Researchers estimate that she died due to a blow to the head. Interesting. I know, this may have taken the wind out of your sails, but considering they appear so similar to today's design, designs. Could it be that she might have gotten her inspiration from a distant traveler? A traveler who sported remarkable striped leather shoes and inspired the 1,000-year-old seamstress?
In our 7th spot, we have the 800-year-old cell phone. In 2016, a group of researchers unearthed an ancient-looking cell phone in Austria. The phone is covered in cuneiform writing, which dates back to thousands of years ago, making this object thousands of years old. But obviously, we didn't have phones back then, when this clearly looks like it was modeled after a Nokia phone. Alien hunters believe that it comes from an advanced civilization that has come to Earth. Others believe that this object is proof of time travel. What's even more weird is that I can't seem to find much about this phone online, so it looks like no one has debunked it yet. Maybe it's real then, who knows? In our 6th spot, we have the man named Noah. Back in 2018, a man came forward claiming that he was a time traveler from the year 2030. He called himself Noah. Obviously, it's not his real name, and he sat down for a television interview to share with the world what life is like in 2030. But of course, his face and voice were distorted to protect his identity. He said that he can't let anyone know who he really is. Basically, he said that he will be killed for speaking the truth about time travel. He goes on to prove that he's a real time traveler by getting an x-ray of his hand. Upon doing so, it's revealed that there's a weird device implemented in his wrist. That's what Noah says is what helps him when he time travels. Not only that, but he underwent a lie detector test and he passed it, showing that his claims were real. Now, what did he say is in store for the future? Well, since this occurred in 2018, he said that in 2019 it will be filled with more UFO sightings, which, yes, that was true. He also claims that in 2028, that's when aliens will come down to Earth, and that's also the year that the government will reveal that time travel is real. That's pretty intense, if you ask me. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with the Antikythera mechanism. In 1900s, a team of divers exploring the Greek island of Antikythera made a fascinating discovery. They came across an ancient shipwreck. The ship was filled with statues, jewelry, coins, pottery, you name it. They were all like, booyah, jackpot. As they continued searching the ship though, they came across this weird object. It was a blob of corroded bronze and wood. 2 years later, an archaeologist decided to examine this and discovered it was an astronomical clock. But the items came from ancient Greece and clocks hadn't been invented then. This item was in similar size to a mantle clock, and the bits of wood fragments on it suggest that it was probably in a wooden case. They also believe the case would have had like a circular face or rotating hands. There was also a knob on the side, and the mechanism could rotate forwards and backwards. Needless to say, it was a fairly complex object for that time period, so some believe that it was left by a time traveler. If not, then what could this device be, and how come it was so advanced for its time? In our 4th spot, we have the year 3207.
Quote was time machine. They took me to a room filled by many kinds of displays, gadgets, wires that I had never ever seen. The head of project came to me and told all about that mystical project.
A couple of years ago, an unidentified Greek man came forward saying that he traveled in time to the year 3207. He claims that he was shot forward in time and spent 2 days in the year 3207 as part of a top secret military program. He was paid $100,000 to do so.
That after some minutes they would send me to the year 3207. As I understood, I was kinda laboratory mouse for them, But the money and career that I was suggested were worthy for it.
He claims that in the future the buildings were massive, triple the size that they are today. He also says that there were flying cars and that there was strange colored grass. It wasn't green, but a deep purple. And lastly, he said that aliens, humans, big animals, and robots were all walking together down the street. That's pretty interesting, not gonna lie. Don't know if I believe that guy, but some people do. I mean, he also showed photographic evidence, but claims that the photos got a bit distorted while going through the